All right. Welcome to the live stream, everybody. This week, we are going to be talking the third part in our color trilogy series. We want to finish off what we've been talking about these last couple weeks about color, and we're going to kind of get into some practical kind of stuff that we're going to deal with the production manager and the and getting into the actual creating of profiles part of it. First of all, though, if just want to give a few minutes here while we wait for people to kind of join in here. We've been talking about some of these things, and we want to get ready for taking control of your color. So this has kind of been building up to this, and we kind of want to finish with this. So a few things right before quick before we go. If you guys want to see us live every week, we go live about Wednesday, about 2 o'clock Mountain Standard Time. And we do this every week. So if you guys are at home and or even at work and you want to check us out on YouTube, we're going to keep doing this every week. So go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Make sure and subscribe to our channel. We're always putting up new content as well. Especially now that with this whole quarantine thing, we're really pushing the opportunity for us to put out more content on the internet. So if you guys are stuck at home and need something to watch, here we are every Wednesday. And then hit that notification bell. If you want to get notified that we're online, subscribe and then hit that notification bell. That will actually tell you on your phone or on your computer when we're live and everything like that. So that'll be a good thing for you guys. The other thing is we'll be taking some questions as well. We are live, and so ask questions in the chat. We've got Bennett online with us here. He's watching the chat, and so if he has any questions, he's going to be sending those over to me. So if you guys have any questions about this material or anything really, go ahead and put those comments in, and we'll take a couple breaks here and there throughout the presentation to kind of see if we got any questions as we move along. So let's get going here. So saving money with color management and Flexi, part 3, profiling. We're going to show 3 big kind of tips and tricks that we can use in Flexi to really save you guys some money and get you those best colors when it comes to the software and our production manager. Oh, we accidentally skipped a couple of slides here. Here we go. All right, so first of all, getting started. We want to kind of lay out some ground rules for this episode, and there might be quite a few of you out there that probably don't have a device that will run this, but the idea is what we're going to be doing is making our own profiles. This is kind of the real key to getting the best colors. So when we create media profiles, the thing that we're looking for is getting that consistency. We want to make sure that getting consistent color across banner, across our high gloss, different things like that, our vinyl, all these different materials, our matte paper, all this kind of stuff. Creating profiles is actually going to help you quite a bit to get that those colors to match across all the different media. So if you print something on one material and then go to a different material, it should print fairly similar. So that's kind of the goal here. The other thing is it makes spot color matching a lot easier. I can't really push that enough. The better the profile that you guys make or create, it's really going to make your spot color mapping and getting those Pantone colors and hitting those a ton easier. This makes this part of your life way easy. So, and then there's a ton of savings. We'll talk different numbers here, but up to 30% ink savings based on Well, let's just put it this way. A lot of the profiles that you probably find out there are not that well equipped or that well set up to uh, use the best ink in the best way. And so sometimes you might actually be using profiles that are oversaturating the material a little bit. We actually talked about that a couple weeks ago, where we said that putting on too much ink can actually cause the print not to last as long in the sun. So saving you some ink on there as well. So the minimum required are going to be for this kind of episode is an X-Rite. First of all, you're going to need an X-Rite or a Barbieri or one of those devices that can read color. Now, these things are not cheap. They are expensive. They run at least around $1,200 new. So you're in above. If you're looking at the really nice Barbieri ones, you're probably looking at, a lot more, a couple thousand. So, but it all depends on convenience and how much you do profiling and how much you want to put into it. Those Barbieris and some of the really nice ones are all automatic, and it just waves the machine back and forth over the color swatches. Does it really fast for you. The basic one is a little bit cheaper. In fact, I've got one right here. Let me grab it. So this is an X-Rite that we have here in the office, and it's just a real simple machine. It plugs in via USB, and our software supports this machine. It's just got a little white pad there. So getting one of these is going to be essential. You're going to want to have one of these for this. In fact, you can't really do it without it. So having a spectrophotometer, a color spectrophotometer of some kind is going to be the number one priority here. I know this is an expensive tool, but I guarantee you get one of these and you learn how to do profiles, you will be amazed at the color that you can get out of your machine. It'll blow your mind. The next thing is getting a Flexi subscription. Now, the reason why we say a Flexi subscription is because we do have a couple versions of our software out there, like the OEMs that you might have, that they may not have the full suite of color correction tools. And so if you really want to do this, we would recommend having a full Flexi subscription in order to do this. And then the last thing is training. Now, this one's going to be one of those ones I'm not going to address really right now, but at the end of the session here, what we're going to do is I'm going to actually show you guys where you can kind of get some training. And in fact, you can get some training not only just from us, but you can get it in a couple other places as well. So we'll kind of go over that as we go along. So taking control of our color and making our own ISOC profiles. Like we said before, it can reduce ink costs by up to 30% by reducing some of our ink that we're using. We can maintain our customer satisfaction. So we're going to get that consistent color over time, especially if we're doing this a lot. We can make sure that we can reproduce those customers today, tomorrow, next week, next month, 2 months, 6 months from now. So this is the goal here, and this is really important because you don't want to have a customer come back and then you not be able to reproduce a print that you did, say, 6 months or a year ago. Then we can also increase our print speed. So a lot of profiles out there are just terribly slow. And so you can increase your speed, but still maintain some quality. So that's going to be another big pointer here. So tip number one, let's get started here with tip number one. What are we gonna do? So when we're profiling for Flexi or for our printer, any kind of media, we really want to profile the media for its purpose. We want a specific profile for every print mode that'll maximize the profit for that media. So our goals here are going to be to print each job as quickly as we can, use as little ink as possible, but still maintain that customer expectation. So the idea here is that we're going to have profiles that are going to be slower, yes, and then we're going to have prints that are going to maybe not be quite as slow, they're a little bit faster, and then we'll have those economic type prints that we're going to be doing. So whatever the customer expectation is, and then this kind of leads into our next slide here, but how are we viewing this? How is it going to be used? What is it going to be displayed on? Where is it going? So if you're looking at something really close up, like a decal, or like you see in this picture in a bus stand where people are looking at it right next to it, this might be the high quality. You would want to keep this on your high passes, high DPI, and this is where light cyan, light magenta are going to come. You're going to print higher quality stuff for these types of media. The next step is going to be maybe more than 3 or 4 feet, 5, 6, 7 feet away. We're maybe not quite as detailed. We can lower our quality a little bit, save ourselves some ink, but still produce a sign that looks good because people aren't going to be looking at it right at their face. So the close-up is going to be for decals and other things that are going to be close. We can reduce some of that quality, and we're not going to abandon all quality because people will still be looking at it fairly closely, just not quite as close. And so you can get away with some things and still maintain good quality. And then the other thing is from 10 feet or beyond. And so this could be a banner on top of a storefront or something like that, where we can get away with a little bit more, saving ourselves quite a bit in ink costs, and still create a great looking product for our customers. And so there's a lot of different factors there. So basically what we're saying here, and it kind of shows in our slides, when you don't need the ink, don't use it. So don't use ink where you probably don't need that quality. You'll save yourself a little bit of time. You can actually, change your pricing up. It allows you to be a little more competitive with your pricing as well. So let's look at some example modes of what kind of modes we're going to profile for. First of all, we talked about high quality. So this is close-up stuff. What are we going to do with this? Well, we're going to push the higher number of passes. So we're going to be looking at 16 passes, 18 passes, 12 passes, 14 passes. This is going to be a higher pass print. We're also going to default the ink and the GCR settings. So by default, the ink and the GCR, the light ink settings are going to transition themselves. And we're going to actually look at a little graph here about the light inks here in a minute. But we're going to default the light ink to what the defaults to when we create the profile, and then the GCR settings as well, the gray balance settings. So that'll give us a much higher quality print, much smoother transitions. That's going to give us those really powerful close-up graphics that we want for our customers. The next one is going to be a speed print. We're still using good quality, but we're just doing it faster. So we might want to reduce the light inks a little bit and set the GCR or the gray color balance to max K. So we're using the maximum amount of black. We might go to unidirectional, maybe lower the passes or possibly lower the DPI a little bit. And then when we go to economy, we're going to reduce the lights and the dark inks. We're going to set the GCR to max K, and then we're going to lower the passes and then also lower the DPI. So what does this kind of look like? So if we were going to do a high, medium, and low print, what would that kind of look like? Well, for example, here we could see that in this case, we're looking at a 16 pass unidirectional print and higher passes. So we're seeing more of those passes there. And then we're going to be using more ink, but producing less material. So this is going to be a slower print, but it's going to be higher quality. We go down to the second one. And in this case, we can go from still maintain that 600 DPI. So we're getting a lot of quality still. We haven't reduced the quality of the image yet. We're just lowering the amount of passes, switching it to bidirectional. We're able to output more than double feet per hour, and we're using a lot less ink in this case. And then maybe a third mode, if we wanted to go set these up, would look like this, where we would do an 8 pass. So we bump down the passes, not quite as much, but just a little. and then we set it to 300 DPI on the quality setting, and then we can see that it will produce a much faster result. Now, again, we want to make sure that we put these uses to different, we put these to the appropriate uses, because obviously if we go to print a low quality graphic and then put it somewhere where people are going to be looking up at it close, it's going to look terrible. So, we kind of want to make sure that we keep that in mind. So before we go on to tip number 2, Bennett, do we have any questions out there? Any questions at all that have come in yet? Guys have any questions out there? Again, we are live, so if you have any questions, just type them into the question box there. Looks like we don't have a whole lot of questions yet, so we might just continue on here. Light inks. Yes, okay, so confirm, no questions. All right, well, if you guys have questions, again, just a reminder, we are live, so throw those in the comment section if you have any questions. We'll address those as we go along. So tip number 2, reduce light ink usage. So what does this do for us? Well, if we look at our curves here, we can see that by default, on the left, we see that our curves are very even here. So we've got that cyan coming down here, and we got that light cyan bulge right here. So this is the default configuration for light cyan, and this is for a high quality print. So what's happening here, and essentially, when we talk about light cyan and light magenta, all those colors are essentially watered down versions of regular cyan, is all they are. And so the other thing is too, is that light cyan and light magenta and those light colors really don't give you, they don't give you more color gamut. They may give you a little, but they really don't, that's not their whole purpose. The whole purpose of the light cyan, light magenta is to transition or create smoother transition from lighter colors to darker colors. Because if you think of like a light cyan type color, we can still achieve that with regular cyan. It's just that our dot pattern spreads out a little bit. And so we notice that quite a bit more on higher quality prints. You're going to, or on lower quality, I guess, prints, or regular quality prints, even if we had no cyan at all, or if we had no light cyan at all, and we just had regular cyan colors, you'll notice that as you get to those lighter colors, lighter cyan colors, the ink just has to spread out, the dot pattern spreads out a little bit to create that color. Now, when you're looking at it from a distance, it really doesn't make a difference. But when you're looking at it very, very close, like at a decal or a sticker that you're going to put on your window or on your phone or whatever it is, on your laptop, you're going to see that up close and you're going to see that transition in color. So that's where the light cyan magenta really helps us out, is to help bridge those colors more and more. So if we're going for more of a economical print where we don't need those light colors, we can come in here and change our graph to the way it looks on the right. So we're using more regular cyan down at the low end, and we're only using our light cyan down at the very, very 10, 15, 20%. And so this will help reduce the amount of ink that we use in order to create more of our medium quality or low quality type prints. This is going to be really important, is getting these adjusted correctly. Now, if we fully intend to create a high quality print, we're going to want to stay with the one on the left, because we're going to want those transition colors really well. Because if we're looking at it from a meter away or less, we're going to notice that. So the one on the right, the after, that's going to be what we want for a lower quality print or a quicker print. So we can reduce those amount of inks, save ourselves some money on ink, and still get a good print because we're going to be looking at it from far away. So this is one good area that we can do this. So again, the results for this, what are they going to look like? Well, we're going to save up to 30% ink costs. So we're no longer dumping down exorbitant amounts of ink on prints that don't really need it. Another advantage is really we don't lose any color gamut by reducing that light cyan or light magenta. The disadvantage is it's going to look less smooth up close. So that's your drawback. And this is where you're going to need to evaluate where this print is going, what it's doing, how we're going about it, where it's going to be seen, how close are people going to be to it. All these kinds of things are going to factor into the type of decision that you make here. So this is going to help us go through this and get us a good money savings here. So then there comes the topic of gray. By default, when we print gray, the color curve is going to be heavy on the CMYK. So a lot of grays are created with the CMYK values. So this is okay, but it uses way more ink in order to create that same color. So you can create black with 150% ink value, maxing out your cyan, magenta, and yellow to create a black or a gray, but we're using way more ink. So when we're doing lower quality prints, where we want to reduce or save some money on these colors, we would want to use the K values only. So use a percentage of the K in order to reduce the amount that you're going to get. The other thing is, as we go to the next slide here, we'll look at the curves. So when we look at our ICC profiles and we look at our gray component curve, by default, you can see here that down at 0%, our black input is super, super low. And most default ICC profiles use this kind of gray. And this is okay, but here's the disadvantage here. When you're using a CMYK gray, this curve is fairly smooth, but the problem is that as we ramp up here, any slight variation in one of the colors, and this is especially true for gray, as we are creating our grays, and as they get darker and darker, as we go to the left, if the profile doesn't get created in such a way that you get a perfect curve, what ends up happening is you get these zones where your gray might look good down early, but then as it gets to maybe 25%, maybe something hits a little hitch or something, right? And then all of a sudden your grays between 25 and 40% look green, or they look blue, or they look pink. You guys have probably seen that before. What this does, or what this is doing, is that's because of the CMYK. You almost have to have a perfect curve in order to do that. Only a couple percentage points in cyan, magenta, or yellow can push a gray to be just off balance one way or the other. And so this is where switching, and this is going to be our tip 3, is going to be adjusting the GCR curve in our ICC profiles. So as we seek to save ink on CMYK to create these colors, if we do a curve more like this and we set the GCR curve to GCR max smooth, is one of the options in there, it replaces the CMYK with black ink. And this is going to be the key, because this will give you much more consistent gray colors, and it will eliminate some of that banding that you're going to get, or off coloration, is it more heavily relies on black. And we can see that by this graph here. Right from the 0%, we're pumping in a ton of black, but we're not using hardly any CMYK to fill that in. So this is going to be one of those things that we use to help us save on ink. This is a huge one because as we pile in more inks and more ink, more CMYK or more CMY, we're just creating pools of ink, which with a improperly calibrated profile, that might be the way to do it. But if you get a good calibrated profile and we create this, this is the kind of stuff that we're going to get. And this is going to give us excellent results. There's no reason why just black ink can't give you a really great gray. And if it can't, then we have a problem with your profile. And again, a reminder, if we're doing this, these are all things that we have to have a spectrophotometer for. So if you guys are just tuning in, or if you just came in, we're talking about creating profiles, and you're going to need one of these I1 X-Rite devices or something like that to create these profiles. So that's going to be important for you guys. This is going to be a big one for ink saving for sure. What are some of the advantages of reducing these or switching out the CMY for the black ink? It can save you, again, a ton of money on ink. We're talking a lot. We're reducing the amount of ink that's being put down because we have to put a ton of them down. Gray looks more neutral, and that's going to be another advantage. So this is going to be something that we're going to want to keep throughout our colors. It's going to help us keep our grays neutral and balanced. No cyan, no magenta in there, things like that. One of the disadvantages you may run into this, though, is if we start using this in a higher quality type profile, you're going to see peppering in lighter areas. So this is where you may need to, if you're doing like a grayscale black or a light black colors, a lot of light, you may want to go with more of a CMYK option to avoid these pepperings. It's basically just like spatterings of black to create the colors. So one of the places where you typically will find this is if you've seen pictures of like you have a model or something of somebody's face really close and up and close, and you look at the print and you might see that their skin tone has got little speckles of some color in it, could be black or other things. That's the peppering that you're seeing there. That's the kind of stuff that you might end up seeing, you know, if you do this option. So again, these are kind of saving ink tactics. There you go, stumbling over the words a little bit. So saving ink tactics. And if we're going to go this way, again, if you're looking at it from a distance, you're probably not going to see this difference and things like that. So we've talked a lot about all these things. Why don't we just jump into Flex How are we guys on audio? Nothing. Okay, let me switch mics here. Great thing about okay, how's this? Okay, looks like it's back. Okay, great. Man, hey. Hey, we're live. So, all right. So, sorry about that, guys. Looks like we had some kind of weird glitch with the audio here. So, something happened with my mic. So we are switching it up here. So, okay. So we're going to go back to our production manager. Start back over again. Let's kind of go back to where we were. So let's close this down. Get this back. All right. So we're back into production manager. We are going down here to our printer, and we're going to set the color profiler right here. So we're back in this screen. We're going to hit create ICC profile, and this is going to bring up the color profiler for us today. So right here is where we're going to determine a lot of our settings for our color profiler. So what we want to take a look at is we're going to select our device, and we're going to select our quality mode here. And so we can take a look here and see we've got all kinds of different quality modes that we've got for our software. So we got 1080 by 1440, we got 720 by 720, 1440 by 1440. We got all kinds of different settings here. So based on kind of what you want to do, we'll determine on where you want to be in terms of your high quality print. We can also see the passes in parentheses here at the end. So 24 passes, 32 passes. We've got some here are 8 passes, and that's our 720 by 720. So we've got a lot of different options. So when you create a profile, this is the first thing you're going to want to do is determine what kind of print you're printing this for. Is this going to be a high quality print, medium, or low quality, or is it going to be a high speed print? You know, what's the focus of this going to be? We're going to choose our color mode based on what we have on our printer. If it's CMYK, light cyan, light magenta, or maybe it has white or varnish or something like that. So that's going to help us out a little bit. And then we've got our dither type, which the most common one is the enhanced stochastic. It's a pretty powerful one. So we're going to give it a name, and then here's where you're going to again label this properly. So we want to say, you know, something like this is going to be, let's pick a quality. In fact, here, let's just say, it's just going to say this is going to be a medium or a low quality. This is actually the media name. So we're going to call this, let's just say this is generic vinyl. Right? And then here, down here, we can, it already fills something in for us. It actually already fills in the resolution for us. And maybe we can say instead of custom 9, maybe we'll set this to high speed, just so we kind of know what's going on. And so we'll follow the steps here. We'll just kind of go through these steps. And you're going to go through these steps one by one and kind of follow the instructions. And like I said, this is really easy step by step. We start by printing out a test pattern to verify our ink limits. This is where we're going to put in our ink limits back and forth, and we're going to determine how much is too much ink and how much is too little. And you print off these little graphs, and here you can kind of see it gives you an explanation of what you're kind of looking for. We go to the next page, and this is going to be our characterization chart, or sorry, our linearization chart. So we're going to print out this chart, and then that's where our handy dandy scanner is going to come in. So we're going to use this I1 to scan in these swatches that you see on screen here. So you're actually going to go physically one by one, and you're just going to go scan them across. And if you're doing this with one of these, you get used to it after a while. You can get pretty efficient at it, but it'll take you 5 or 10 minutes to cruise across and scan all the swatches. And so I'm going to hit neutral linearization here just because that's going to help me get to the next screen so you can see it. But once you get them all filled in, it's going to then create curves. Now, obviously here, because I hit neutral linearization, I'm not actually connected to a device and I haven't done it, I actually can't click on this. But this is where you click right here. This is where you're going to get access to those charts that I've shown you before that show the curves for the CMYK, the black, and all the other ink sets, the light cyan, the light magenta, that kind of thing. Then we're going to do another ink limit test. So this time, instead of doing some ink limits on just 4 ink sets, we're going to do a combination. So we're going to mix yellow with magenta and cyan with magenta and cyan with yellow and print a bunch of stuff and just make sure that they're not overflowing with ink. So we're doing another ink limit test here. Once we finish with that, again, it's another easy step. We're going to take our handy little I1 here and scan in our characterization chart. I would recommend that we do the biggest chart that we can so we can get the best accurate colors. And we're going to print this out, scan it in with our I1 or our Barbieri or whatever we're using. And then the final step, which we won't be able to get to, is the ICC generation. It's basically the page that says generate the profile. I'm ready to go. And we're all set. So what we're going to do is eventually, I think me and Dean want to walk through the process of actually creating a profile in one of these live sessions. We'll have to set it up a little bit differently. We'll have to set up a camera or something in our print room. And what we'll do is we'll set up a Barbieri or one of these I1s. We'll actually scan these in to kind of give you guys an idea of actually how to create a profile. So we'll have to work that out in the future. But you can see here that the steps are really, really simple. It takes a little bit of practice, but give us a call at tech support. We're more than willing to help. Our guys, we all know how to do these things. And so if you get stuck or you're wondering about some tips, give us a ring. Look at our YouTube channel. There's all kinds of resources there as well. So let's go back to the presentation real quick here. So let's talk about all right. So let's talk about training resources. We mentioned this at the very beginning of the episode, and we kind of hinted at some training possibilities that you might want to get. If you want to get really good at this, there are a lot of options for you guys out there. First place you can go is our YouTube channel. You're already here. You already know where it is. You're already looking at it. There are a ton of playlists available. We have webinars. We have all kinds of things explaining all kinds of different topics about Flexi, how to improve color. If you go to our channel page and do a search inside of our channel page and just search for color correction, you'll actually be surprised. You'll get quite a bit of stuff. There's actually quite a few things about color tips with Flexi and color correction tips and things like that videos that you can watch to get. Then again, we also have the monthly webinars. Now, they're not always going to be on color, but we try to. In fact, this next week, we're actually doing one on, I believe it's white, on the 14th of April. We're doing a webinar on how to print white from a printer in Flexi. So, we cover all kinds of different topics. These are all free resources for you guys to use. If you guys are also using the Flexi Cloud, let's pull Production Manager up real quick again. There's also this knowledge base. Yeah, I want to continue. Okay, so if you go to your cloud window over on the right-hand side and you click on this little knowledge base button, that'll get you right to our knowledge base, which you can do searching again for. And there's all kinds of topics and videos that are linked to those topics from our YouTube channel. So a really good resource there. Those are all free stuff that you guys can take advantage of for training. We also have some other training options available. So we have one-on-one training. So I've done a ton of these profiles. I have a pretty good idea of how to make these, and I've done a ton of them before, all kinds of different machines. If you want to learn how to do a profile, I can walk you through how to do a profile, and we offer one-on-one training. So you can buy them in 2 or 4 hour blocks, and you can go to thinksai.com/training, and that'll get you to this page over here on the right. The nice thing about this training is that you choose the topic. The recording is then emailed to you later on in the day, and then it's completely customizable. If you want to do whatever you want, we can talk about anything. That's the nice thing. is that it's completely customizable, and then you get the recordings later. We've had guys in big groups where they will set up 4 or 5 guys that are new to Flexi in a room, and we'll do a training session on basics of Flexi or basics of en route or whatever you want it to be. It could be, what's the print cut for decals workflow? How do I create a profile, or how do I do vectorization better? All kinds of topics. So we do those in 1 hour blocks, or you purchase them in 2 or 4 hour blocks, and then we do them 1 hour at a time. So we do an hour, you get a chance to play with the software. I send you the recording. You can review it as much as you want. You can download it from the internet. You get to keep it forever. So this is one of other options. So if you wanted to do this, this would be a really great option for you. We also wanted to put in a plug for somebody else that does training. And I don't know if you guys have maybe heard of these guys at the SGIA and the ISA trade shows, but Colorcasters. I have actually taken this course, and this is a really well done course. These guys are top notch. I can't say anything better about these guys. They do I think it's a 3-day, 2 or 3 day course. I can't remember exactly. I think it's 3 days, where it's 2.5, where you talk all color. It's just a complete course on color. In fact, they've got a book here that they give you, and it just goes through a ton of topics on color. So they give you resources that you can use later on. I think that they're doing it all live and online now. So I think you can register online, or I think after this coronavirus thing goes away, they'll eventually do on-site as well. Again, I did the on-site, and you do 3 days of intense color training. They talk about the background of color, what are all the things. You actually build a profile on site with them. So that's what's really cool. These guys do, if you're able to go to one of their Insight trainings, they do a really great job, and you get the physical hands-on training with one of these iXWrite devices. They have some Barbieris as well that they use, and a few other automatic ones. But they go through a lot of the stuff that we've talked about in this presentation. They go over in extreme detail. So it's a good course. So if you're looking for even more advanced training, this might even be a way for you guys to go as well. So last one, do we have any questions that anybody had? Sorry about that glitch there in the middle. That was a little bit weird. But if you guys have any questions at all. Any questions out there? We'll give everybody a few minutes here. I know the YouTube is just a little bit farther behind. Again, one of the things that this is an extremely underestimated thing. We believe that if everybody created their own profiles, everybody would have amazing color. It just can blow your mind. Not only can it give you better color, but you're just going to be, the amount of money that you can save by doing this is much better. One of the things I kind of wanted to talk to about is, maybe some questions will come in here towards the end. One of the other things I wanted to kind of address was, we do create a lot of profiles for your devices, and we try and make as many as we can. We actually have someone who dedicates themselves to making profiles, and every time she gets access to a printer and the device, we try and make as many. But we're somewhat limited. There's a lot of places where you can get profiles and things, but the thing is that these profiles, you have to remember, were created in a printer in most likely a different state than, in a different environment than where you guys are working. So, if you guys live in Florida, and it's middle of the summer, 90 degrees, 80–90% humidity, the profile that was created maybe in Denver, Colorado in, say, the spring, is going to have a much different effect. And so one of the things is about profiling also is it allows you to create profiles based on your area. And so that's really, really important. And we find that sometimes people will have struggles with the profiles that we give them. And it's not that the profiles are bad in and of themselves. It's just that that profile is probably not working great for that media. Is probably not working great in that environment because it was probably made in a completely different place. And so, you know, there can be some discrepancies back and forth with that. Sometimes they work great, sometimes they don't. But when it comes right down to it, if you want the best color you can get, investing in an X-Rite device or some kind of measurement device like this is going to be important. You'll get superb color. You'll get much better grays. You'll be able to save yourself on ink because then you can create profiles that were actually designed for that mode. One of the confusing things, or one of the things that sometimes will happen, is that a user will use a 1440 by 1440 profile, really high quality, and they'll just bump down the passes and say, oh, we're good. That can work, but it's not the greatest. And so you could actually go in and create a profile that's a lower or a higher speed print that gives you way better quality than you would if you were to take a high quality profile and dumb it down. That profile was never made for that. And so you can only create a profile technically for one use case. You can't create a profile for different resolutions and different speeds. It's really not the way that it works. So having a profile for each material and each different speed is going to be helpful for you. So looks like we still don't have any questions. So I guess I covered everything really well. Let's see. I think next week we're going to be going over, oh yeah, next week's topic is going to be HP printers and how to set those up with an HP barcode or the Suma barcode. So if you guys have those kinds of devices, that's going to be a great video for you guys. We're going to try and, I'm going to set up some stuff where we can show you guys what you need to do to use those barcodes on a Suma or on another device. So with all that said, I hope you guys have a great week. Enjoy the rest of the week here. Hopefully you guys are all doing okay, and join us next week. Again, if you want to join us, subscribe to our YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell. That'll help you get the notification that we're live. And join us next week on Wednesday. You guys have a good week, and we'll see you later.